Hello, Ginger viewers et al. I am the Crimson Blur. If you don't know who I am, I mean, you know who I am.
I mean, come on. He's the world record. He's the ex-world record holder in Slay the Spire. If you haven't.
That happened literally yesterday.
Oh no, it's too
Jeez.
soon. Too soon. My bad.
What an up and down day, dude. Up and down.
That
was
is-
we have Smash going one way. We have Slay the Spire going the other. What am I supposed to do here?
Look, at least you're being pushed, right? There's somebody else that's like out there.
I'm not trying to get pushed.
You just want to sit at the top?
Yes.
Okay, no, that's cool. I get it.
Yes. I love it.
I'm sure you'll get back to it.
Sure. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the Smash World Tour, which
Yeah, man.
just got announced yesterday. Details are in there on their website, smashworldtour.com, which I have currently up on my screen. You probably have some stuff up too.
Same. Yep.
There's also a Smash GG link for that, so you can peruse that as well as an official rules.
Mm-hmm.
So some information is out.
We were just looking at the rule set. Things are kind of unclear, and I don't think you probably have any special answers, but have you kind of thought the same thing?
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
I have a lot of opinions about generally this whole thing
Mm-hmm.
and the rule set. One thing I will say about the rule set, can I take a minute to gloat?
Yes, of course.
People gave us so much shit for the fucking 525. And you might notice, this shit, without that sort of stuff, we wouldn't have a complete rule set. This is a 37-page document. You think Gimmer and Apostle can make a 37-page document? What do you think, Ginger?
I mean, that's a good point. It seems like this is kind of just ripped word for word from like the like standard rule set, right? That you guys created.
There's a good amount of ideas, and I'm actually very happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
That were, I would say, like mostly we're just trying to make the best products possible, right? So I don't like to use the word stolen or whatever, but it's like more like, hey, there's some good inspiration here. I think the general format has some good parts, some things I would have changed, but a lot of it's good. It's not ass. It's
Yeah,
not
I agree.
ass. It could have easily been ass.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm for a year one V1, like, you know what? Not so bad. We've seen worse.
What do you think? So the first line, when you look at the rules for Super Smash Bros. Melee, it talks about the game version. I think this is a really interesting thing because it says that the game version has to be NTSC 1.02 or PAL, right, which is super standard. But then it says using the tournament organizer's choice of memory card data with all characters and relevant stages unlocked. Is this meaning by like an event by event basis? We're going to be running like UCF or non-UCF? I'm assuming that's what that means, right?
Can you do me a favor?
Yes.
Can you never say the letters U, C, and F in order as long as you live?
Why?
Because did you not see? Okay, I don't want to say it, but did you not see recent major events going like a ninja deep in the dark?
Do you really?
And I'm saying that if we all just shut the fuck up, just for once in our lives, just stop talking about things, maybe we'll get the outcome we want. Can we do that? Can we do that as a collective? Just for one time in our lives, just, maybe let this one go.
Okay,
Maybe let that one go. And never, just don't put them together.
Okay.
Just don't put the U and the C and the F back to back.
Okay, well, here's my problem. I agree. I hear you, right? But how? Okay, so we need to be able to inform the participants about the game version, right? Because people
don't
care, Blur. People care.
Okay, what do you care about more? That's the question. What do you care about more?
What do you mean, having the event or having it be run on whatever version?
Having it be run on the version you want and be consistently on the version you want, or having perfectly clear, transparent communication. Which do you care about more?
I'd like it to be run on the version that I care about.
Well, then shut the fuck up about the communication, okay? How about that? How about maybe let it go. The communication won't be perfect, but when you show up, your backdashes might be okay.
I think I'm afraid, and I think potentially parts of the community might be afraid, that certain TOs don't really like different game versions, and they would like to play on the standard vanilla Melee. And it's like, well, I don't know whether or not that's going to be the case. I don't know this TO's logic. I don't know what they're going to be doing. And we live in a society now that's so like, oh, if I miss my dashbacks, I don't even want to play the game. So I'm just afraid that might hurt entrants. But I could be wrong.
I think what you should do is wait until that happens and then maybe talk about it.
Okay.
But if it doesn't happen and we have some level of uniformity, which we've lacked for the last fucking 3 years or whatever, however long the saga's been, you know?
Yep.
Let this play out. People are trying to be a little stealthy here.
Yep.
And let them be. And if they don't, and if there are some problem cases, talk about it then. But until then, just don't put the letters back to back. That's all I
get
ever
it.
ask.
You know what? I'm down.
Yeah, that's all you got to do. All you got to do is not talk about it. How hard could that be?
Wow, I didn't know it was so easy.
It's really easy.
No, okay. So do you think, because Nintendo, they're not going to notice, right? There's no way. Like most people that play the game don't even notice, even when they're playing it. They think they do, but they don't. So like, what if we froze Stadium? Is that something that they notice?
Yes.
Yeah?
Can you, like, Ginger, I'm just asking for two brain cells to rub together.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Okay.
Like, they might be oblivious, but come on. Like, you play Smash Brothers once and you know this. Like,
well, that's my question about, does Nintendo have two brain cells to rub together? That's my question.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need to know. And
Come
good.
on, man. That one's an obvious one.
Yeah,
Too easy to see. And I'm not even against it. I hate freaking rock transformation and teams. That of all things, that pisses me off.
No, it's awful.
Rock transformation teams is actually like worse than poke floats in teams.
I hear you.
Like it's insanity. It's we fight in this little corner. Everyone gets bounced around. No one knows what's going on.
You hit your teammate half the time.
You hit your teammate. It doesn't. All the hitboxes are right next to each other. It's completely absurd. So I'm with you on it, but like know your limits. I mean,
yeah.
I know people always like to go from issue to issue and. People call me conservative or whatever, being like, "Oh, you're stopping progress." So y'all do you, but I really don't think that one will actually come to pass. I really, really don't think. I think it's way too obvious. It's literally on the screen.
Yeah,
it doesn't. It's too easy to see.
No, I agree. And well, like the interesting thing is, like if you go to the Smash World Tour website and their FAQs, they're like, is Nintendo involved with the Smash World Tour? And it's like, no, essentially. But they say that they hope to team up with them in the future.
They're never going to do it. No.
That's what I'm assuming too, is that it's probably never going to happen.
No. It's literally never going to happen, Ginger. I mean, I'm going to confirm it for you now.
Perfect.
Not only is it never going to happen, but their hopes are only half hopes. Like, you don't just call something a Smash World Tour blatantly calling it a Smash World Tour, you know?
Yeah.
Like a name that is basically asking for trouble, right? And, time will tell, right? I'm sure Gimmer is pressing F5 on his inbox right now. We'll see if the CD comes. No, I'm serious. It could happen. But with a name like that, with the thing, like, it's never going to. It's just put that away. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I hear you. And like that's something that I was interested to hear your perspective on, because I feel like, I mean, you worked at Twitch and you had talked to Nintendo. You'd been in talks with Nintendo before. You guys have had contracts, right? Like prep to go, and like things just kind of never really worked out with them. So from your perspective, it's just never going to happen with this. With this.
Yeah. I don't think it's impossible for Nintendo to come into the scene. They ain't coming in on this.
I hear you.
This is 0% chance.
Well, something that's really interesting to me is that I feel like a lot of the events, because obviously the Smash World Tour has like fucking 40 events or something. Some of these events I feel like could be partnered with Nintendo or have been partnered with Nintendo in the past.
Have they?
I think, or have none of them?
Maybe Gommel?
Yeah, I think Gommel has, right?
I think that's the only one.
So do you think that they just stay away from these events, or like could it still be an event by an event thing? I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing, like, sure, but what does it even matter? Like for the viewers at home, like, we're like, okay, if they come in, they don't come in. We all know the impact on it is very little. It doesn't really matter. How that affects that. Now, I do think there is a broader conversation to be had about how, I mean, with this being a pretty, I don't want to say like pretty blatant in its boldness, right? Like its boldness to presume to like run a Smash World Tour without any Nintendo involvement.
Yeah.
The conversation of how this affects the community's relationship with Nintendo is very important to have, and certainly that is more up in the air. Like I don't know what the odds are on how this affects what they think of us, what future partnerships could mean, whatever. But I think most people at this point are more happy to see them not involved in this than they are to see them involved.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
So maybe it's by design, frankly.
Yeah, I get that. Something that I was kind of interested in, and like a question that I had for you, I was just thinking about like product sponsors and like how they're going to get involved with this, because I'm assuming, I mean, if you go to the Smash World Tour website, I don't see that they're like partnered with anybody or anything. But I have to imagine this is like a big deal, and I'm assuming that product sponsors are going to want to get involved. If it's not Nintendo, right, it could be any sort of gaming thing, HyperX or whatever. Do you think that this is like a potential thing that we're going to see for these events? They're going to be able to like prosper from all these like brand deals and everything?
Not in the way it's currently structured, as I understand it.
Okay.
I do think, and this is like, here's one thing I will say before we do any deeper dives into what I think we will see or whatever. I would really like for Gimmer and Apostle to do an AMA on Reddit soon.
Yeah, that would be great.
Like, there's too many questions. There's way too many questions out there. There's like so many questions. Now I've done a lot of digging, so I know a lot.
Perfect.
But I don't want to be the one. I don't want to be the one to talk for them or anything like that. But in order to do product sponsorships for like a holistic, like let's say you want Astro Gaming to sponsor all of these events, right? And everyone wears Astro headphones across the tour. Well, you'd have to have sales rights for every single event, right?
Yeah, true.
And it's an open question. Do they actually have that for all the events? I don't think they do.
Really? So you think that the tournaments are still operating independently, but they're just like a part of the tour?
Which could be great. Which could honestly be great. Fine. Like it doesn't. It's definitely not great for sustainability. So there's a lot of things that. So I'm like a mixed bag on this. Like first of all, I'm just ecstatic that we have something.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I've always just wanted something. But I'm worried about sustainability, right? Like generally you need broadcast rights sales, you need sponsorship sales, you need ticket sales at a finals event. You need a lot of things to recoup. And I hope they have good models and a good business model to make this work. And full disclosure, I literally have nothing to do with this. So a lot of me is I'm just like, I'm slaying spires. I'm watching as a spectator like the rest of y'all, and I'm just hoping that they thought this through.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because certainly, like, if you look at their market position before this, they kind of had to do a Hail Mary, right? VGBC was losing ground a little bit,
Yeah.
And this is a pretty big Hail Mary, but god damn it might work.
I know it. Like, okay, so the whole time I was watching the announcement video, like, in my brain, Beyond the Summit was taking over Melee. And you had talked in our last discussion about Money in Melee about how, like, man, you know what we might need is just, like, one organization or, like, one person to just, like, buy all the tournaments or have all the rights to all the tournaments and just, like, fucking... If we can't come together, this democratic republic where we're all, on the same page, just have one organization just do it all. And I was like, dang, Summit might be that. They're streaming every single event. They're getting huge numbers. They have the biggest prize pools. This is insane. And I'm starting to see VGBC lose all the streaming rights to all these tournaments that they used to be streaming for. And, from what I heard, I think that Beyond the Summit generally does it cheaper. It's like, wow, if this is a competitive market, Summit's killing it. They have skits. They have top players being involved in all this stuff. And
Ginger, I feel like our last discussion was fucking prophetic.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say it's prophetic when I knew about a lot of this stuff going before. I mean,
sure,
it's not a great prediction if you already know something. but what I'm trying to say here is this: we're in a weird era of Melee, right? It's especially weird for me because I was pretty hands-on for the last like 7-ish years with a lot of stuff, and now I'm slaying spires. So for me, it's like, damn, this is a new era, and like seeing, because now that there is, I'd say, a lot more players in the game, and I think the philosophies have changed. In general, we're entering what I like to call the capitalism era of Melee, where I think people get the wrong idea with like this announce. I think the general idea of like you hear this like, oh wow, the Smash community is coming together. When I honestly look at this, and so in so many ways, I'm like, actually, Smash community is getting divided, and battle lines have just been drawn.
Yes, I hear the same thing. Yep.
Battle line, like we're just rat-a-tat-tatting. Trenches are being built right now as we speak, and there are some events that are now on this side and doing this, but I mean the list of events that aren't is rather long. Right? Yeah. No Genesis, no Big House, no Frostbite, no 2GG events, no main stage, no summits, no DreamHack events, like no Full Bloom. Like the list is pretty long, right?
Yeah.
It's like 60+% of Smash, right? It's like this is maybe 35%. Now that can improve, right? Like they could potentially pick up more events. I'm pretty skeptical, you know, of their offering for what they're giving TOs to see that happen.
Yeah, I agree.
But maybe they get momentum here. Like maybe they sign some sponsorship deals, some ways of making this more appealing. Or maybe they do what they're doing now, like they did with Apex and Double Down, it's called, I guess, Royal Flush 2. Which is basically prop new things on and make new things happen. And so like make it competitive that way.
Sure.
Which is smart.
That is really smart.
Because when they're trying to fight for ground, like fuck it, we don't need that TO. Just make your own event, right? And stand something of your own up.
Sure.
Which will likely lead to a lot of oversaturation, but it will also lead to a lot of competition between TOs to try to stay relevant. And there's going to be a lot of blood in the water. This is going to be very dirty. I've seen a lot of dirty tactics already. It's crazy out here.
I know.
Ginger, if you only knew. So it's so funny to me see this talking about all this unification shit, and I'm over here going like, this is the most divided I've ever seen us. We are so divided. People are getting shanked in the street.
Yeah, I hear you. But that's what was going, that at the crux of it, that's what was going on in my head watching the reveal. I'm like, I'm not popping off or anything. I'm just thinking, oh my God, like, what is Summit going to do from here? And like, oh, what events do they even have? Like, oh, there's no Big House announced? Like, Big House is not? Oh my God. It just seems like it's going to be bonkers. But to the consumer, this could be an excellent thing, right? Like, we're already seeing money being pumped into Smash. We're already seeing some tournaments unify. We're seeing like some sort of circuit actually happen. We're seeing people literally wanting to come out of retirement to like actually participate again. I feel like there's a bunch of motivation in the scene, which is great.
Oh, absolutely. Like, look, here's the thing. The position we were at before, like, I mean, I had so many depressing conversations with Genesis. Sometimes going to Smash events was depressing. You see all these people like being like, man, the dream, Smash is great. Smash will live forever, whatever. But the dream of being a top professional felt like one that can live off that, off being a Smash Brothers professional. It felt gone, right? It felt gone. It felt like the Smash scene will survive, the tournaments will survive, things will survive, but being a top professional, that dream might have been written off, right? And this tour not only lights the fire in the ass of VGBC's competitors, but also in the competitors themselves, right? Like in a lot of people to give more attention to the Smash scene. So there's been, for a long time, as I've said many times in the past, I've told you about it, and I think this is finally proof. Money has always been there. Money hasn't been the problem. It's a complete misconception. People love to pour the line of, feel sorry for the TOs. It's all, this is all a charity, but it's not a charity. This is very capitalistic. Everyone's trying to make their hustle happen and try to be king of this esports world. And what that means is that we're going to see an intense level of competition that's going to really benefit the community, right? Yeah. And we're going to see people step up their game.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I don't know. It seems really cool for me. And I actually talked to my stream right after the reveal. And I'm thinking, as somebody who wants to be the best in the world and wants to actually, make this my career or whatever, I'm thinking, wow, this is like the first step of something that could literally make that happen for my life, which could be amazing. But then I realize, what is this like to the average person? I'm like, how does this affect you guys? Are you guys going to go to more tournaments? Like just the random guy from Minnesota or whatever. Are you going to go to FET in the UK or something? And from what it seemed like, people are really energized to see what happens. They want to watch the melee and they want to see a bunch of top players going at it. And like they're invested in the storyline of the circuit, which I think is really cool. And I think that's energizing. And I mean, we already have great viewership, but I think it's going to be enhanced even from there, which I think is great.
Yeah, I mean, like more events and more like quality things for Smash is always good. You know, maybe there's some argument for oversaturation, whatever you can say, but overall, more quality Melee, like more quality Smash, like we can't be mad about it, and certainly we can't be mad about the money behind it. Now, your question was, how does this affect the average Smash Brothers player and their experience? Well, I think there's potential in the opt-in system they have. An opt-in system is something I've always wanted in Smash. We had one in Tekken World Tour, and so this is a pretty similar system hosted on Smash GG. And there's a good amount of potential for that. Again, I have a lot of improvements that I think could be made to this, but I'm not involved, so my ideas are just mostly for you guys to hear.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I always wanted was, okay, have an opt-in system, and then make it so that local results are part of your generalized player points, whether it's a Smash World Tour point system or something, so that local players can compare each other's Smash World Tour points, and it's relevant, right? I think one of the bigger questions, because of how many events are part of this right now, is what does this mean for community rankings? Like, how important is the MPGR now? Like, how are points for this gonna live side by side with that?
Yeah.
You know, what does it mean? Because ideally, and this is, I mean, we're very far from the ideal, right? Ideally, you want a world where the point system that a circuit, a tour brings is like a replacement value. Like you don't really need two ranking systems, right? You almost want it to be different, but this feels like a little more of like a qualification thing, and MPGR is more of like still going to be the ranking. I can't tell. I don't know what community perception is yet.
That's kind of what I thought it was going to be about, or how it feels, I guess. So, are you think that that's something that they could be doing better? Is like not only making a qualification system, but also getting like rankings involved, so people like locally can understand how they like stand against their friends with all the points and everything.
Yes.
I hear you.
Yes, I mean, and that stuff, you know, maybe one day it'll happen. But I think that sort of stuff, it would change the average Smasher play experience. And I agree with you that this doesn't do that much for that, like the regular Smash experience. Like your tournament in whatever local scene you're in is largely going to be changed by this. And I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. Something we also talked about in our last discussion, which is it's very similar, is how like a ranking system should be set up to help support people entering tournaments, which I thought was really interesting because I hadn't thought about that concept before. And it's really interesting and kind of cool to me that so many international tournaments are getting involved with the circuit. Do you think that like this circuit is going to be a big enough incentive to actually like really boost these international events like FET or some of the tournaments in Japan and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's going to absolutely help their attendance. Like this is one of the major benefits of a circuit. So like, let's say you made the 10 strength and weaknesses of Smash. Like I always like to talk about, and try to solve all 10 of them. I think the way they formatted this and what they have now, like solves like maybe 2. Right, which is really good. Which is really, really good. Right, we're gonna have a championship. We're gonna have a slightly more international exposure. It doesn't get us all the way there. I hope they have international streams for stuff and all that, like in other languages. I do want so much more, but I mean, this is like, dude, we'll take whatever the fuck we can get.
Yeah.
I want to emphasize that like it is so difficult to get everyone together. Like it's. And they got their little alliance together, and that's great, right? But that is farther than anyone else has been able to get.
Yeah.
So we have to give credit where credit's due. Like, just getting that far is very difficult. Of getting people to sign documents and make it happen. You know, that's hard.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's cool. Like the way that I envision it going is like they got this amount of tournaments. And they probably had some like line in their head. They're like, well, if we get like this percentage of the community or the tournaments involved, let's just fucking run it. And they like got to this point. Certain people didn't want to agree, and they're like, you know what? Let's just do it. Like I think they have enough, and there's so much momentum. I think also Gimmer did a really good job, or VGBC, of hyping up the event. I thought it was cool that they had everybody restream it. I think that just like the kickoff seems to be going really well. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that their video was well produced, and I think that their overall the vibes right now are, at least publicly, are positive. Behind the scenes, I've seen a mixed response.
Yeah,
I mean, it depends, right? I think the players are all super positive about it. I'd say TOs, it varies, right? The people who are being put on, I guess platinum tier, they're really involved. They're probably pretty juiced about it. The people who aren't or are not happy with the structure, a lot of angry people. So, so it's basically, it depends on what side of the line you are. and where you end up standing on this. Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense to me. It's really exciting that we even have this amount of tournaments signed on. Do you see it? Oh man, I just wonder if we could something that I'm interested in is right, we don't have the big houses, we don't have Shine, we don't have any of the Dream Hacks, we don't have Genesis. I already say Big House, we don't have Big House. And these, I've kind of thought of it like tennis for such a long time. Oh yeah, we have the super duper majors. We have Genesis, Big House, Super Smash Con, Shine, or whatever. And when they only really have Super Smash Con and I guess Gommel, it feels a little weak. But I'm wondering if they went into it with this amount of the Smash community, and if they're going to be able to convince the other tournaments now, because I feel like they have leverage at this point, right? They're like, hey, look, everyone wants to go to this whole world tour thing.
I don't know. I don't. Not this year.
You really don't think so?
I really don't think so.
Oh, that's interesting.
The majority of them, I do not think it's happening.
Dang.
But what do I know, right? Maybe things will change. Maybe as things go, it. From my understanding, they're not giving a lot to these TOs, but they're not asking for a lot in return. So that part's nice. But I personally don't see it happening right now. Now, things change, and you never know. But based on pretty extensive discussions with almost everybody, I can't see a world.
That's really interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping for, because I think the more unified we can be, kind of the better. So I'd like to see these types of events get involved in the circuit, especially if it doesn't necessarily oversaturate the amount of tournaments that are happening.
Yeah, but Ginger, think it through, right? As unified as we can be, the better. I think sometimes I'd agree with you, but if the numbers don't line up for the betterment of your event, and that's the deal you agree to, then that's the deal you agree to sometimes going forward, and maybe people don't want to be in that position, right? They think they deserve this or that, or maybe they have their own vision, or maybe just straight up they don't want to have someone else making a decision for them, or specifically maybe they don't like working with the people who are running this. There's a lot of different reasons for someone to not want to be involved, but the greater point is that this could change, right? Especially money could change. If they do a good job with sales and they're able to convince those TOs with the one thing that always works, money, then that is a thing that could change, right?
Yeah.
You're asking me out of the goodness of their heart, do I think that we're going to see a lot of those names join? No. But also, if this thing succeeds hardcore, then those events might slowly become irrelevant. That could happen too. That's a good point. Too. But we're not sure. It's really early. It's hard to say.
That's really interesting that you bring up some of the tournaments becoming irrelevant, because that's some of the talk that I've seen on Twitter. Is people are like, damn, it sucks that I'm going to Full Bloom instead of Pound, because
dude, people are dropping from a lot of them.
Yeah.
I see people being no, I might not go to Full Bloom now. I might not go to, which is rare when I say, oh, there's a lot of people angry about this. yeah, you can put two and two together, right? Like,
Yeah.
there is a lot of events like that where people are like, well, first of all, like maybe they weren't even reached out to, right? They weren't even talked to, because a lot of this stuff was kept pretty hush hush, and so they're like, wow, we were just left out, never talked to, and then this happens, and then you see, a lot of things going off on a bad footing, like with Don't Park in the Grass, straight conflict with the finals.
Yeah, that's insane.
But like I said, dude, there's gonna be a lot of this sort of stuff going forward. We are going to see it's gonna end up being better for the players, but you're gonna see a lot of people who, put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into the scene themselves, have to compete for everything they do, right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of big dogging. There's going to be a lot of like this or that, but I'm very hopeful still that there's going to be casualties along the way, but hopefully it works out.
I just really want to see a great first year, because I've always thought that, like, if we could get some sort of unified circuit together or something, like the first year we have, now it's $250,000.
It's make or break. It's make or break. And
it's make or break.
Well, it's make or break for a few reasons, right?
Yeah.
First of all, that finals event better be the best event Smash Brothers has ever.
Yes, I agree.
Like by a long shot. Like this shit better make everything look bad. So it better be, right?
Yeah. It can't be Thunder Smash 4.
It cannot be Thunder Smash 4. Are you still sponsored by them?
No.
Oh, thank God, Jesus Christ. So we can talk openly about that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. But yeah, so it better be the best event Smash has ever had. And secondly, like it's hard to know their exact financials, right? But like there isn't the great cost of paying off a lot of TOs, which a lot of other formats have done. So there's money saved there. They still got to host a finals event. They still got to put up a prize pool. They still got to pay like commentators. There's still like a good amount of cost. Like you guys, everyone looks at the 250, but there is a genuine amount of cost. So the question remains, like, can they make this thing work? First of all, there's so many questions. First of all, is Nintendo going to shut them down? That we'll probably know within at least a couple weeks' time.
That's what I was going to ask you, is like, if something like that happens, they wouldn't wait until the middle of the circuit, right? Because that would give them so much bad press, right?
Who knows, man? My guess is, the reason I say that, I think every passing day it gets cooler and cooler, and the likelihood it gets shut down gets less and less.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Just because that's just the nature of things, right? Like if this thing just proves itself viable and it exists and it's out on the marketplace, like it gets harder and harder to shut down over time. I have the odds pretty good that Nintendo's not going to.
Yeah.
But I do think that odds that Nintendo undermines this thing from behind the scenes, that's pretty high too. Right? So like they don't need to shut it down. They could just undermine it, right? So
yeah,
it remains to be seen.
Well, here's something, like, I assume most of my viewers are viewing this through like a Melee lens and everything, but I think one really interesting thing is, like, you might think, oh, Nintendo's just going to leave us alone. They don't really do anything for Melee events anyway, but like this involves Ultimate too, and they are at least a little bit invested into the Ultimate competitive community, right? So I feel like this is probably a pretty big shock to them that somebody else is like taking over the brand Smash World Tour and having Ultimate events, like, have points and all that. I feel like if it was just Melee, I could see them being like totally hands off, but like we're kind of touching their baby right now. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, everyone could make their own guesses, but I think I'd like to say that my chat, your chat, is informed enough to think and ask the reasoned question to themselves: is Nintendo happy with this development? Maybe think for about 5 seconds, come to a conclusion that seems pretty obvious, right? Like, so, and that's gonna matter. It's gonna matter in ways that most people won't see. Yeah. Right. Or maybe we'll see it very fast. Right. True. Either we'll see it pretty fast, or we're not gonna see it, and there's gonna be a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we don't. Or the third option, like miracle scenario. Nothing happens behind the scene, and we're just skippity doo dah to the end of our days, right?
Yeah, imagine Gimmers refreshing his fucking email, right, and just nothing ever comes, and he's like, "Oh, okay,
oh, nice." Yeah.
I mean, that could be cool. I'm interested because I don't know. When you say undermine from behind the scenes, could you talk about some of the ways that they could do that? I don't know what that looks like.
There's so many ways. So let's say you have a sponsor lined up for your tour, and Nintendo sends them an email instead of sending you an email. Or you have a TO that wants to join, and Nintendo talks to them and is like, "Don't do that, or we'll never work with you again." There's about a dozen different ways they could do it.
Yeah, that's
they
interesting.
don't have to C&D this.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 1,000 different things they could do. So I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying it's even likely they will. I'm not even saying they'll undermine it. What I'm saying is that it's a thought, because this is a really bold play. This is as bold as it gets.
Yes.
It's literally called Smash World Tour. Like, the fuck? Why didn't they just... Here's my gripe. They should just name it differently.
You think so?
Dude, their risk level would be down like 3,000%. Like, it'd be so much less risky.
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm not the only one who said it. Like, they've been advised of this. I know that for a fact.
Really?
So I mean, the SmashCon guys are part of this, right? So you've got to imagine, like, SmashCon goes out there and they put like Facebook ads up with like official Nintendo artwork.
Yeah.
And say, come to the biggest Nintendo celebration. You know what I mean? That's like the radio ads they put out. Like, it's like they put an image of Yoshi with the word Super Smash God, and they put it up all over the internet. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
if this dude's that bold, then he probably has no problem doing this. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Jeez.
that's a level of boldness that might win. Like we said, capitalism, baby. It might work. It might also not work at all.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I just imagining the future, because we said it's like make or break, right? And imagine they make it, and then a million brand deals come on. Everybody wants to get involved. Nintendo doesn't want to shut us down. They let us do our thing. We're able to be this like grassroots community where we have like this great circuit, and even more money gets pumped in. And now, being a top Smash professional, like viewership's hella up, and like everybody's making shit tons of money, and we're just esports, and it's fantastic. And Nintendo doesn't care.
There is potential. It is possible. It's good to walk into this because everyone's optimistic, right? With a good deal of skepticism. For all the different reasons I said, this thing is pretty, V1 right now.
Sure,
They got to get a lot of events on board, or maybe they don't. Maybe they just got to stomp on those events and make new events of their own, right? Like they have been doing. One or the other. Frankly, whatever, But we'll see, and they got to figure out a way to make themselves good and sustainable and growing, right? Like we like it to grow in revenue and stuff. And it remains to be seen. Like, can they do it? Do they have the network for it? Are they is it going to happen? Like, are too many people pissed at them? One, because of this, or maybe of previous things to really be able to for them to do it in particular. How are their competitors going to respond? So many questions.
Yeah.
So many. It's so interesting. This year's going to be great, and I'm so happy I'm slaying spires instead of out there in the freaking trenches in the warfield taking shots.
Oh,
I'm getting
man,
bayoneted in the back right now. It's wild.
Imagine you were working at Twitch still, and this gets announced. Are like fires going off in the office, or like what happens?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely. There's definitely email chains in multiple companies talking about this, right? Like,
man.
And the thing is like I said, I've said it before, and clearly I'm right. Money is not the problem. There's been money waiting on the sidelines for Smash for so long.
Yeah.
Like, people have so much. Like, it's so easy to sell something like this. Now, I don't know if they have full sales rights, right? So I don't know if this thing is sellable. So
sure.
I want people to first of all divorce the idea of like everything I've talked about a general unified circuit before, which is often very idyllic, which is like every event, full broadcast sales rights, and all of that stuff, with what this is right now, right? Because it's a little bit different, right? But this could become that, right? And is the first opportunity to become that. So the question is can they get all the way there, and then they'll get the honeypot that actually is like the end of the rainbow, right? Like, it actually gets smashed there, because like I said, money's always been there. And it's always been pretty accessible. And even getting as much as they have, which is mind-blowing to us, has always been available for us, and capable. It's simply been a matter of getting enough people together, and they got, I think, for a launch, this is more than serviceable, right? This is a good enough list of events. This is like, yeah, this is sick, right? And there's a lot of ways this can go. I could see this, like, I could see maybe they'll become, like multiple products. Like I could see this being like Magic the Gathering, where they have like the Star City League. You know what that is?
I don't know anything about Magic the Gathering.
Well, they basically have a non-Wizards of the Coast independent league that is just run like that, right? And so we don't necessarily have to have full unification, right? There could be different ways of molding it. What we do want to have is the general idea of we have a lot of good Smash content, a lot of good Smash events, and we have good sustainability for all people involved, right? So
definitely,
like those are the two biggest priorities. I love full unification, but look, man, I'll take progress when I see it.
I hear you. Oh, it's so exciting. I'm curious because you mentioned, and I think a lot of people are thinking about it, like how do their competitors respond, right? And I think it's pretty obvious their main competitor Summit, right? Do you see a world where they announce a competing circuit? Do you think that could actually be a thing? I don't know if that's like something that's been done in other esports. I'm not well enough learned about that stuff.
It's possible. I think there's a lot of ways this can play out.
Oh, man.
And I think a lot of the machinations are probably beginning now, right? Now that this is announced, because again, this was kept pretty hush hush. They even kept trying to keep it from me, right? Like, but I still knew. It didn't matter. Oh, Gimmers listening to this, I still fucking knew. I knew literally everything, bitch. Anyway, so forgetting that, they kept it really hush hush. So that means that a handful of people were blindsided by this. A handful of people were, haven't been able to come up with counter strategies, which is part of, I think, the reason why they kept it like that. But
that's interesting.
It might be a while until we see how their competitors respond, right? But we're probably gonna know before 2021, right? Like in terms of what the counter is, and I'm excited to see what happens, right? Like it's gonna be very interesting.
I don't know. Like I tweeted about, I've just been getting periodically giddy just thinking about the whole thing. It's like, oh man, what if Summit competes and they have this giant thing, or like even if they don't, what if this whole world tour just does fantastically and then they get more events on? There's just a million great ways it could play out.
And like in a world where let's say no one competes, right? And this thing goes really well, then VGBC starts monopolizing, but then they get critical mass, and we have the unification we sometimes talked about and wanted, right? And then that could be the spur, right?
Right.
There is worst case scenarios here too. While we have our optimism, the worst case scenario here is this doesn't become financially viable. A lot of the people who get pushed out or get screwed by various developments, whether it is with this or other things, just the general competitive nature of the market right now, like let's say the Dome Parks in the grass or whatever, who just get stomped with it, right? Like the many events that will get stomped in the future, most likely, right? That happens, so we lose that core base, and people get this illusion, whatever happens, this is fair to fail, and then we're actually off worse than we were before. There is a worst case scenario, and there's a part of me that's very worried about that. Mostly because I'm like, okay, can you guys really sustain this? Is this really possible?
Yeah.
Really happen? But since I'm not involved, I'm over here being like Mango said. Mango, one of his chatters asked, like, how are they going to pay for this? What's going on? You know? And he answered the correct answer. Who the fuck cares? Right? I'm not going to ask questions as long as the check's cash, right?
Yeah.
So I hope they've got their ducks in a row.
Yes.
And I hope that they can do it well, because the worst case scenario is actually pretty bad. It is pretty bad.
Yeah.
But we're all desperate enough that like we appreciate a shot being taken, right?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I thought about that too. I think to myself, like I said, I don't see any like brand deals. I don't see anybody that's probably giving them money at this point or whatever. So like they have to be able to fund this somehow. And like you said, I don't really care how they get the money, but imagine a world where they run this entire circuit, and maybe they're trying to get money selling things in the Smash GG shop. Maybe they're just making money off broadcasting rights, streaming tournaments and stuff like that. And they're assuming they're going to be able to get this $250,000. And what happens if they run the championship and the checks don't cash? Like this was.
I think they take out loans, but I think it's more about will year 2 be able to grow? Like, you don't want it to be the same every year, and you certainly want, like, let's say no competitor comes around, you certainly want like Big House and Genesis and all that shit to be on this, you know, like that'd be fucking silly, right? If we live in a world where there is no competitor to this and we don't get a real tour, you know, like one with the most prestigious stuff. So yeah, like, it's going to be about sustainability, and more than just sustainability, but also growth year on year, right? Can they build the business model, and do they have the people and the know-how to make this all happen, right? This is a very hard project. This cannot be understated, and it's on us also as a community to make sure that we both, you know, help thank you for the bits. We both help the process, but also keep them honest, right? Like, and understand and go in with a clear mind, right? Can't let too much optimism blind us. There is a lot of risks and pitfalls here for the whole scene, but damn if it isn't exciting.
Most definitely. Oh God. Yeah, I don't know. It's so exciting, right? I mean, I don't know. It just freaks me out all the time when I think about it. When I was watching the initial video, I wasn't even that excited because I was just literally thinking about all the politics that must have been going on and like the different ways everything could play out. But it's just gonna be fun regardless. And like, my biggest hope as a competitor. So the way I see it, right, is like, even if like Smash World Tour isn't giving like direct money, I don't know how they're incentivizing certain tournaments to like jump onto the whole thing, but it's like, I feel like there has to be a boost of top players going to more tournaments, which I think should help. I don't know if it's actually like borne out in data, if like more top players going to an event either brings more eyeballs or also brings more IRL attendees. But like, that's my thought, is Smash World Tour is like, hey, if you sign up for this point system, more top players are going to want to go to your tournaments, and thus more entrants are like going to come to your tournament as well.
Right. But we also want a world where that's not the only give they're giving.
Exactly.
We want the TOs to be sustainable too, right? Like, we don't want, like, then again, like, if you actually look at the ATP, this is a very little known fact. The tournaments in the tour, in the ATP tour, pay the league organizer. They pay the ATP to be in the tour.
Really?
Right?
Yeah.
So that's not how the publisher runs leagues in esports have been, like Capcom, Tekken, whatever. They actually pay the events, right, to be on their tour. But technically in sports, it's actually the other way around. It is the tournaments pay to be a part of the ATP, right? They're just happy to be on there. So I think it'll be interesting. It really just depends how much clout and momentum they can actually get, how much it actually matters, right? Like, if Big House is just as big as it always is, and, you know, they make more money with a BTS streaming deal than they would with this, then, you know, then it's never going to happen, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But if the prize pool for this, the momentum from this shakes people from wanting to go, and it changes the prestige levels considerably, then yeah, they might be in a position where they have to, right? So I think it depends. For me, I'm rooting for a world where we can have the pie shared a little bit, right? I don't want a world where, and this is not where this is yet, so this is just more like the world I want. I don't want a world where broadcast and sales rights are being done by just the league, and that money isn't spread around, whether it's to players or through TOs in some fashion, right? Through some revenue share. Because to me, I feel like that's pretty important for sustaining like the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting to think about, the tournaments having to pay like the tour to be on. And like, the more I think about it, it's like, well, if they have a good first year or something, or like at a fantastic first year, like what's preventing the Smash World Tour? Like, why would they pay an event to like have to get on there if they did good with the pool of tournaments they already have?
That's how the ATP works, and you can imagine someone paying to be platinum.
Yeah, for sure.
Gold or something like that, and you could see that happen. But that's not how it's been working in esports so far. Again, it usually works the other way around. But this is not how it's working in this. I want to clarify for people. That's not happening here at all. I'm just more talking about a generality for the future or potential tour structures.
Yeah, most definitely. Oh, that's so interesting to think about. I don't know. I'm just excited to see where it goes. It's so crazy that it's happening so soon too. How do you feel about the announcement timing? Because like tournaments are like CEO Dreamlight's happening in 2 weeks or something.
I mean, they want to do it after Frostbite and Genesis, and they want to do it before CEO Dreamland, right? So it makes some sense, right? Right?
Yeah, it does for sure.
Let's not look like we're missing a couple, and also Summit, I guess, too, in the middle there, and then let's do it before one we have. And one thing I did like is that in their video they highlighted the tournaments that they did have. So that I think that'll help those tournaments a good amount. Like some people didn't even know what like an HF LAN was, but now they do, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing for the scene. So that's nice. And yeah, man, like this is like so early days. There is like I don't know what the odds are on this would be. Like I don't even want to make a bet because I want to stay optimistic. But like whether can this go from year 1 to year 2 is like a major question mark. And you gotta hope they can figure it out.
Yeah, I'd imagine there's some pretty smart people involved, and I'm hoping they have a good model like you talked about before. So man, I'm super optimistic.
Yeah. So it's crazy news. It's frankly crazy news, and I think that it is wild the era we live in now with Smash. I hope that this helps, especially people like you, to like stay motivated into investing time into this crazy game. Because this sort of stuff and developments like this and more events and this sort of stuff is what feeds competition and what feeds us to keep growing, right? Again, worst case scenario is like 2G circuit, right? And that was pretty fucking cool. So
yeah, definitely.
So
yeah, I mean, from my perspective, God, I really do hope. Oh, and there's so many good things that can come out of this, right? And just like 2020 for Melee in general. Like imagine if we get the Samox doc like on Netflix and everything, and then that boosts the scene. And let's say like this helps, PP starts coming out of retirement or whatever. Duck is back. Like all these top players that like want to be a part of this are going to even more tournaments. Maybe more sponsors are getting involved for like actually sponsoring players to help them get to these huge tournaments because they want to have the eyes on the world tour. Like if all of this happens, Melee could see such a huge surge, like all those things coming in combination.
It would be a big deal. It would be a big deal. And I think at least we are in a better position than we have been. And I mean, we got to take progress. It's progress. I'm curious how sponsors will react, right?
Yeah.
I think many of them will wait a couple weeks, first of all, to see Nintendo, and see what Nintendo does, right? Like if anything happens. But even before this, there was like a handful of sponsor interest that I was surprised about. Like I was like, hey, people are still asking about Melee players. That's new. So that's good. But I'm hoping this will increase activity. I will say that, at least for me, I haven't heard. I don't know about you, any rumblings of any immediate like people starting conversations as a result of this. Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything about it. I also haven't. If any sponsors are listening, you guys can hit my email up. I haven't gotten anything.
Yeah.
But
so I think
I'm hopeful.
I think the real test is more like in a month, right? Like to see if that happens. Because, like I said, if you're a smart sponsor, you wait 2 weeks to see what Nintendo does.
Yes, definitely.
So it'll be curious to see. I hope more people get sponsored. We have so many of even our top 10 players aren't sponsored. It's crazy.
I know it. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And Ginger isn't sponsored. So.
And Ginger. Hey, guys, SSBM Ginger on all socials. You can check me out.
Yeah.
Hey, when are they going to start sponsoring Slay the Spire players?
That's the real question. We talk about top 10 in Slay the Spire. The fucking second ranked best in the world isn't sponsored. Actually, first is.
What?
So, yeah, What, you think this is a game, bitch?
Well, okay, look, I'm disconnected from the scene.
We're out here slaying. I've used the B word twice in this podcast. I never used it. This is a esport if I've ever seen it. One, man. I'm trying to get paid.
Blur, you should just, you know what? I'm calling it now. The Blur Slay the Spire World Tour Championships.
I'm in.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
That's awesome.
It'll be great. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm curious what chat thinks. Do you have any other questions? Direct ones for me?
I don't. No. I feel like we talked about like a lot of the pressing questions on people's minds, and especially my mind, because I feel like I'm in a slightly different position than most people, right? I'm one of the people that's looking to get a sponsor. I'm looking to like actually monetarily benefit off this Smash World Tour. But I think that talks to a lot of the, or at least we talked about a lot of the points that a lot of people are interested about. If you see anything in your chat that you want to answer, anything like that, I'll skim mine as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
I missed it earlier when you talked about what were your thoughts on BTS competing circuits. I think we talked about a good amount.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's currently, to my knowledge, no plan to that, but there might eventually be. I think I wouldn't even just beeline to only that being their response, right? Like any more investment into Smash is a counter to this, right?
Definitely.
Any counterbalancing force is a counter to this.
Mm-hmm. I thought that something interesting that you brought up is like maybe some of these tournaments become irrelevant. And like I imagine a world where like Big House Genesis Summit are irrelevant. Like what kind of storyline does that paint for like Melee moving forward? Is that even necessarily a good thing, even if we're like benefiting by having this tour? I think that's kind of
that's for sure too. Gray _code says, why do you think this circuit succeeded where others failed? It hasn't succeeded. It was announced 2 days ago. The fuck are you talking? Like, I want people to keep their perspective a little bit. It has not succeeded at all yet. It hasn't been announced. It has been announced. That's all that's happened. It hasn't succeeded. It has been announced. We'll see if it succeeds. So it's a hashtag we'll see, but announcement is farther than anyone else has come. So in a way that is, I guess, except for 2GG and Esports Arena, but and MLG. But other than those, so we'll see. So far, no one's made it into a year 2. I guess except for MLG, but that's different.
Yeah, that's a totally different era and a bunch of different stuff.
So like, success is going to be played out over the course of a year plus, you know?
It'll be super interesting to see what it looks like in a year. I think that's going to be so interesting to see. Because right now we can only speculate, but like seeing how it actually did is going to be crazy.
So another thing we didn't talk about, by the way, is that it's my understanding that though there's a very detailed rule set that many people worked hard on, it doesn't seem to be binding. So
yeah,
seems like TOs can, and I think it's part of a general philosophy, whether on purpose or not, to make the friction required to joining this as low as possible.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah.
For year 1. So rule set's non-binding, and I like no sales rights, no media rights to my knowledge. Like all like basically you're on the tour and we slap your name on it, right? Like, that's all you're really committing to. So that makes it at least a little frictionless, which might be the reason why like this is the first one to actually happen, right? Because they're giving nothing and they're getting nothing, right? So it's at least makes it more makes it closer to the finish line. Whereas I think in the past, like people try to make the long-term vision work out first, and that just ends up making it so it's too complicated to happen. Right?
That's something I was just going to say about the rule sets. Do you think that should be something that should be uniform across all the events? Is that something that like we feel like we should push for, like we should have a ledge grab limit, or do you think that keeping the friction low is actually just going to be better to make sure that we can have all these events?
I think for now I'm actually okay with that overall, like for this reason, right? I think that what is more important? Having a unified rule set for a year when we've been living without one forever,
Yeah.
or having, the product succeed, right? And so for me, it's like, yeah, it's probably more important for the product to succeed, and then we could work on the unifying rule set crap once the product has the momentum and clout to be able to enforce it. So for me, I don't think it's that bad to do it that way. But I think it goes to a general philosophy of like, how different will the events that are on this tour be because they're on the tour? Pretty much nothing, actually. They'll be pretty much the same.
Yeah.
They won't be amplified by very much at all, except for maybe some more top players attending, right? And so in so many ways, like it's like, all right, so the finals is really, really their chance to prove themselves because it's the most additive thing that just got added. Also, the Apexes and Royal Flushes, or Double Downs, excuse me, of
Yeah.
the world, the events that got added to the calendar, like those are also pretty additive.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you think about Apex being added, by the way? Because that's kind of like a tarnished name in the Smash community.
It is a shrewd, and I mean, it goes with the general theme of like what we've been talking about tonight, which is, or today. Oh, I don't know day and night anymore. It's a shrewd decision because what you can do when you do something like that is you can take Apex's previous numbers, both in attendance, live attendance, and viewership, and put it into a sales deck.
Yeah, true.
And so now that would be true if, again, they had all those rights, but that general idea of let's take a brand that has a good history of numbers because we need more of those because we don't have Genesis and big houses so that we can make a splash, right?
Yeah.
Because clearly it was a story. It was it was something that people talked about because people still have that name recognition with that series, even if it's not actually the same TOs and even if it's not really the same thing. Now, for me, like, I gotta be honest, like, I was hoping we'd never see Apex back.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people felt that way.
I think, yeah, right. So it's like a bit disappointing to me. But look, man, this dog eat dog world is going to take the numbers in their sales decks, and it's going to take the brand recognition being added to a splash page, right?
Yeah.
And so I get it from a business perspective. On a communal one, I don't particularly agree with it. So, but I mean, look, man, we're sacrificing community values left and right here. So we're desperate.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of using that brand, and look, if they can salvage it, then God bless. Right?
Yeah, exactly, right?
It's possible. It's possible. I hope they have a salty sweet. Double Down was actually the one I got more excited about.
Yeah.
Because I've said for a while that someone should do a competing Vegas event with Evo.
Oh.
And they'd win if they did.
It's happening in the summer too. Like it's near the timing of Evo, right?
If they did it right, they'd win. Let's see what happens with this first one. But like, you could beat them at their own game. Honestly, people, at least the Smash crowd. So I think that's pretty exciting too.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm probably going to go to Double Down. I'd never been to an Evo. I've never been to Vegas before for anything.
Double Down of all the things is the one that I'm thinking about attending. Like I figured this year I'd probably just go to like Genesis and Big House.
Sure.
But I'm like, Vegas, and I like Reno. Reno's cool.
Yeah, I think it's awesome because everybody loved Royal Flush, right? I feel like that event just was really great with all the people and the top players that went. So I think everybody was kind of looking forward to like a second one. I think this is just like a cool addition, right?
No, I think like it's actually super exciting. For the aficionados, that is actually more exciting than the Apex announcement. Like it's like, oh shit, that was a really good event. Let's go for it. So I think that is pretty exciting for me. I'm interested to see like how this all plays out. Like by the way, on a more personal note, one of the byproducts of all this is that we're considering not doing the calendar anymore.
Ooh.
Me and Ada are just like kind of give it up. People are being too a little too. They're mostly using the calendar as a way of like snooping about their opposition and then trying to on purpose be on their dates.
Wow.
it's getting pretty. I can't go into every detail, but
I'm
it's
sure you
getting,
can't.
it's getting. There's blood in the streets, my guy.
Oh
So
my
it's like,
God.
are we even doing our job? Like, who cares anymore?
I'm gonna say this. You don't have to respond, but it's like Aiden like runs, don't park on the grass. I have to imagine. Oh God, how he feels
Man,
running the calendar with you.
What company does he work for? Summit.
Yeah,
He works for Beyond the Summit.
yeah.
Crazy. Crazy.
Oh, that is crazy. Wow.
That shit is crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, though, I think that it's interesting to see how this shakes out. Dude, it is absurd out in Smash Brothers right now. But in a way that's got to make you excited as a player, because this again, we've had this theme of like everyone kind of trying to work together for a general communal betterment, like all this sort of stuff, and it's worked to a degree. But when the chips came down to it, and everyone was like, okay, let's do communal betterment and let's all come together for something bigger, it never happened. Right?
Yeah.
And so this is the opposite approach, right? And I think it can work, right? And it's the one I actually advocated for in the last show, right? That someone just goes for it. We'll see if Gimmer's that guy. Like in VG Bootcamp are those people. You have to be, you have to still execute. So it's super wait and see. This could either fall straight on its face, or it could be like the best thing that's ever happened. And we're all excited because the best thing that's ever happened hasn't even been an option for Smash Brothers for very in our entire history. In fact, it's mostly been doom and gloom. So that's the optimism we're having here.
Yeah, I hear you. Who was the WWE guy who you had referenced in the last one?
Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I guess we'll see if Gimmer's the Vince McMahon.
Yeah, if he is, So, like it's a matter of time that'll tell. And similarly, like his competitors, right? This is, let me tell you guys, this is the first shot. The first shot's been fired publicly.
Yep.
Right? In an award that will go on for a while. And I don't know if we'll ever have a winner. It could be like I said with Magic the Gathering, where it's just like, it is what it is, and there's a lot of different programs going on at once. Or we could have a winner at the end of all this. Who knows? But I don't think this is the end of this, right? This is not over. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing how it all plays out. But I think that's all the questions I have. Thanks so much, Blur, for coming to talk to me about all this. I really appreciate your insight, as always.
Yeah. So I'm excited, Ginger, and I hope for the Smash community and you guys, especially, that all this ends up working out. And I hope that whatever happens, whether this project succeeds or not, or something else happens, I hope there is at least this optimism will be carried over no matter what. And I mean, just like tomorrow we'll learn about so much about the Democratic nominee, we're going to learn in the next 2 weeks whether this thing still exists, because that's the first test.
Yeah.
The first test is going to happen pretty soon, because that is the first hurdle they got to get through. Then after that, it's going to be about execution, and all that. Like, I don't think it'd be a good idea for us to all forget about this until their finals happens.
Yeah.
There's a chance for that. Like, if they're not doing full stream takeovers, if not, like, are they going to make content about this? Is there going to be is there like a weekly show they're going to think about like doing and producing?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff they should do, editorial pieces to like kind of storyline this stuff, hire people, like any of this stuff you guys going to do. This is all the execution stuff that I'm like, this matters.
Yeah, I was thinking about it too. Like, if anything, the Melee community has shown that they will forget about anything after a week.
Look, man, like, remember the esports arena one? Like, literally, we forgot about this.
I know it.
It was happening, and we were just like, oh, right. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yep.
Right? So this is all about the execution, right? Like, that's why I was talking about they should do an AMA. Like, they need to stay top of mind. Like, this is like, there needs to be, like, I'm on my Twitter right now. Has their what's their Twitter?
Smash World Tour, yeah.
World. Have they done more tweets since they announced?
I think it's just the one original one.
My guys, it's been a day. Do more than one.
Yeah, I know.
Do more than one.
Yep, I hear you.
Do more than one, please.
Yeah.
This is the sort of stuff I'm talking. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people talking to them. That means hire a social media person, pay them peanuts. It won't be that hard. And execute this shit, because this is all going to come down to execution, and it's all going to come down because the world where people forget about this is like also a very likely case. In fact, it's probably the most likely case is that if people forget about this until the finals.
I know.
You gotta avoid that. If you're a tour operator, you gotta avoid that. You gotta make sure that there's a storyline to this and the point system matters and people care and it's a thing and all that. Especially when so many of the events that are in the Smash calendar aren't a part of this, like some of the big events. So like your name and your brand and your thing isn't going to be top of mind at 60+% of like, the major events. So like because of that, you have to do an even better job of making sure the stuff that is there is well storylined. What I will say is one thing that Gimmer especially and VG Bootcamp has always been good at is knowing how to create content that caters to the eye. Like you saw that trailer, it was pretty good.
Yeah, most definitely.
They just gotta do shit like that all the time. Like it's gotta be pumping. They're pretty good at stuff like that, right? So there's a good chance there. Like that's maybe the thing that they're best at overall. The things like I'm worried about many aspects of this, but I actually think that's the thing they're probably gonna do a good job at because they are who they are, right?
Right.
So I'm hopeful, but there's high risk, there's high reward. We'll see.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey, if the whole thing gets shut down in 2 weeks, you got to come back on and tell us what this means for the Smash community going forward.
It means. Hey, there seems to be a misconception in the scene that, for whatever reason, that Nintendo hasn't shut down or stuff down or whatever. Okay, interesting. I don't know where people thought this. Like, it's like, have you guys paid attention?
Yikes! No.
It could happen.
I know.
Here's the thing: they almost always shut down before it's public. So the idea of keeping this hush hush, and then just dropping it to the point where many major TOs didn't know this was happening, right?
Yeah.
And then just dropping it and daring them to do it with a name like Smash World Tour. God damn, that's a gamble.
It's crazy.
God damn it, that's a fucking gamble.
Yep.
So we'll see, because usually they do it before it ever happens, right? They slyly make sure it's undermined before it ever gets released. So it's like, I'm curious to see if even when it's public, if there will be something happening. But the PR has been pretty positive. So if they do something, it'd be pretty negative. I don't think they will. I don't think they will. So we'll totally see.
Well, you've been pretty right about a lot of your predictions thus far, so I'm hoping you're right about this one too.
Yeah. Whew. It's crazy. It's crazy out here.
I agree.
Ginger, I hope you get paid one day.
I hope so too. I gotta get good at the game first, okay? I'm not top 2 in the world at this game, all right?
You're up there, man.
I'm
what are you now? What are you ranked now?
21.
It doesn't matter. Smash World Tour points matter, baby.
Yup.
You're at right now just like the rest of us, Ginger. You're unranked trash, just like the rest of us.
0 points to my name, just like everybody else.
I'm gonna go to a local that's opted in, get me some silver points, and I'll be like, I'm better than Ginger.
Hell yeah, do it up. I dare you.
You know what? In a way, I'll be right. It's crazy. Sorry, does the PGR have a 250K prize pool? Didn't think so.
That's a good fucking point.
Didn't fucking think so.
All right, Blur. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate the talk. All right.
All right, homie. Much love.
Yeah. Peace out, friend.
Peace. Bye.
All right. That was a good little talk, huh? What do you guys think? Put a 1 in the chat if you appreciate Blur coming on, huh? Hey, twitch.tv/thecrimsonblur if you want to go check out his stream. One of the best Slay the Spire players in the world. I think he's going to go slay some Spires right after this. Look at all the ones in the chat. Metagame is released shortly before the championship. I think he could release it at any point in 2020. I think it'd be really good for the scene. I don't know if he would really... Honestly, the earlier the better, to get more people invested in the tour. I think that's probably how that goes. I love the Crimson Blur. Having him on twitch.tv/the Crimson Blur. The Crimson Blur. Boom. Check him out, please. If anything, go give him a follow. I know that you guys know who he is, but he also streams pretty frequently these days, all right? Woo. That's some good stuff. That's some good stuff. I love having Blur on. Man, that's so interesting, though. He makes me think about these perspectives that I hadn't thought about before. The ways that some of these decisions get made. I just think that's so cool. I don't know. Oh, it's awesome.